On today's episode of Locked On Avalanche, the Avs make a call up and maybe not what you were thinking or maybe what you were hoping. We'll discuss that. And the Avs back out on the ice. Could not happen any sooner to try to hope that we can forget about that 7-0 loss in Vegas. We will preview that as well. New episode of Locked On Avalanche coming at you.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Thank you for tuning in and making it your first listen of the day. Always appreciated. Make sure to follow us on our social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter, X, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram. Questions, comments, concerns, and opinions, lockedonavalanche@gmail.com. And follow us on our YouTube channel over on YouTube. Hit subscribe. Get notified when a new show goes live. And make sure to subscribe to our subtext as well. Link to that is in the show notes below. And when you do, you become one of our special insiders and chat with Kyle and I one-on-one. And do things like give us your predictions for the most upcoming game, like we will do a little bit later. We'll get to the Devils preview and get some predictions from our subtext people and Kyle and I as well. You see our rundown. There is a Devils preview. As we were recording yesterday, I think right towards the end, the Vegas Golden Knights got their second goal of the game, and they were up 2-0. They end up losing that game to the Anaheim Ducks. And for some people in the social media world, that just twisted the knife a little bit more into, the Avalanche fan base. And some people kind of went a little bit overboard with that. We'll discuss and talk about what all that means, if anything at all, which I'll tell you right now, it doesn't. But we'll talk about that. But where we want to start is with the Avalanche specifically. They did make a call up. I think I know a lot of people were calling for Riley Tufte to get brought back up after that Vegas game. You're talking about a lot of things after that Vegas game and a lot of maybe movement. There hasn't been a lot, but the only moves that the Avalanche did make was to bring up Ondrej Pavel from the Colorado Eagles, and that was it. So there's no guarantee he will even play. And I think you heard that Fredrik Olofsson was not at practice, I think because he was dinged up, right? Not because he was sick.
Yeah, he's actually listed on the injury report for right now. We'll see how it clarifies going up to game time, but he is listed as injured.
Okay. So that's what Jared Bednar was sick. Jared Bednar was not at practice. He was sick. So if I pass that along through the airwaves, I apologize.
You were whispering in his ear, fix this team.
So it's interesting. It's an interesting move. The first thing that I thought of is when Bednar made the move to put in Riley Tufte and Curtis McDermott and sit Jonathan Drouin and Tomas Tatar. After that game was over, Tufte immediately went back down to the Eagles. And the next game, we saw both Drouin and Tatar return. But in between that, after that game was over and Riley Tufte got sent back down, Bednar said it was because there's a lot of guys that he likes and a lot of guys that he wants to get time, get action. And it seemed like it was more about that and less about how I think Tomas Tatar has been playing okay, like well enough that he really shouldn't have been benched. But the Drouin thing, it didn't seem like that was a benching for play. It was a benching to give other guys an opportunity, just to get other guys in the mix of a season. And I'm wondering if this is the same thing. Are they doing the same thing for Ondrej Pavel to just get him because they expect that they are going to call him up at some point during the season? So they're bringing him in now to just get him a game. I don't know if that's the reason, but if it is, I don't know if I really like it.
I really don't understand the Pavel call up especially like Riley Tufte's having himself a year down at Loveland. Like,
Sure
have
is.
yourself a day. And it would be nice for him to work his way to the roster because, like, I understand it's nice for the Eagles to have success and Tufte's contributing to that, but you look at this roster top to bottom, you need contributions somewhere. And if Tufte's going to be leading scoring in the AHL, boy, it would be nice for him to contribute to a roster that has been shut out 3 of the last 4.
Yeah.
So, like, I understand it's nice to see, like, who knows, Pavel could come up, have a great game, have an assist here or there, really light up that fourth line because you saw the Lions in practice. That looked like opening night roster to me.
Yeah, he's got Drew Enbeck on the top line. Yeah.
If you want to get things going again, and this is something that the everydayers were talking about, the YouTube comments, like, let's just settle back down and go back to the basics. And it looks like that might be it. And if Pavel is going to give you just the basics, that's wonderful. But
Mhm.
is this really when you see what Tufte brings to this team? Like, he's a massive body on the ice.
Right.
He can contribute, he could score. I don't know why you don't need him now.
And Pavel's got good size. I mean, he's 6'2", 205. So that's not, and that's what he's known for. I mean, you saw in the preseason kind of like him throwing his weight around like that. He'll give you that. I think they're just fine with that. But yeah, you're right. Like when the team is struggling to score, not that Riley Tufte is this,
Yeah.
scoring machine or anything like that. But I mean, he's doing it in the AHL. So I don't know. It's to me, if that's what they're doing, if they're bringing him up because they have plans for him, whether it's later on this year as like, hey, we know we're going to be calling up guys and we want to know that we can call up more than just Riley Tufte. This kind of shows me like there is zero panic on the front office and the coaching staff, because if there was, they would be calling up Riley Tufte. And they know that we did a whole show on this yesterday. And if you had not a chance to listen to that, we talked about it yesterday, just about that game yesterday, or not, yeah, not over the weekend, clearly was not Avalanche hockey, but the front office, including the coaching staff, is not panicking, and they have a plan for who they want to play for them throughout the course of this year. And if we know anything, the Avalanche dipped into the AHL many times last year. So far, the injury bug, knock on wood, has not really gone after the Avalanche too much, but they're preparing themselves for all different avenues that they might have to go down. And if they feel like at some point Pavel is going to be a guy that we need to call him up now. Call him up now. It's early in the season. It'd be, going up against the Devils, which we will talk about in a little bit. That is a challenge if they're going to throw him into that game. Good luck, kid, in your first game. But they clearly have confidence in him if he does have to play. And this is kind of just their plan. Tufte will get called up again at some point because he's clearly their best guy down there. So I think the first thought is just the way the Avalanche have been playing. If you're going to have a call up the guy that's going to help you the most. That's clearly Riley Tufte. The Avalanche don't feel that way. They feel like, no, our big guys got to get going. They carry us, not a call up from the AHL. And we'll just bring in Pavel. He'll get 7 to 10 minutes. That's not going to win us the game. What's going to win us the game is our big guns, and they need to step it up. They're more concerned about that than they are who's, centering their fourth line right now.
And Chris, you bring up a fantastic point. Like, the front office is not worried and panicking. Like, come on, let's bring up Tufte. Okay. It's not like he's going to be taking over first line. Like, he's not going to save the team. We're talking fourth line here. And
right.
You also bring up the wonderful point. It's nice that the Avalanche get to play around with call-ups instead of have to rely on call-ups to field a roster to play a game night in, night out.
Yeah.
It's nice that, you know what? Riley Tufte would be great and would probably help that fourth line win a game. let's see what Pavel can do. Because again, we talked about it all off season. Lines 1 through 3, they should be good enough to win you a game.
Well, yeah, I think that's where the Avs are right now. Like we're looking at it from the fan base perspective of, if you got to bring a call up, bring up the guys that complete a roster that can help you score. And the Avalanche are like, we already have those guys.
Exactly.
They're Nathan
exactly.
McKinnon. They're Cale Makar.
You're wearing their jersey.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You have to, like, we're going to rely on those guys. We already have them. So don't worry about who the call up is. But, I kind of the mind of, like, the way that Riley Tufte has been playing, he just is deserving of the opportunity to get thrown into the mix right now. And the Avs don't do that. They're not feeling that way. They're like, no, he's doing just fine. We're probably going to need him. And like Bednar said, like, because we want to get a lot of guys involved. Clearly, Pavel is a part of that collection of guys that they want to have involved in some capacity. He's not a guy that's going to be playing, 50, 60 games for them this year, but they must feel like he might have to get some playing time for us. So throw him in now early in the season. So if we do need him later, he's not a deer in headlights when it's, January, February, and they're more meaningful games. Not that this one isn't, but he's kind of got his feet wet and he knows what to expect. Be around the guys, be around the team. All right. I think just because the Avs have not been playing well, we're looking at it as like, is that the right call right now? And they're thinking, no, this is our system. This is how we're going to do it. And he might even play against the Devils. So it could be, we don't know.
And there's a whole list of other names in Loveland that we haven't even seen play with the Avalanche this year that are still waiting in the wings. So it's not a bad thing.
Right. It's like the next call up. We're thinking like, oh, they'll call it Pavel. And then the next time it'll be Tufte. No, could be Foodie next time.
Exactly.
For we all know. You have no idea. So we'll see how it plays out. We'll see if he actually does play. And we'll kind of just go from there. Now, who did play were the Anaheim Ducks and the Vegas Golden Knights. We're not going to make this about them. We're clearly going to make this about
no Zegras talk.
No Zegras talk, Kyle.
I'm done.
Stand down. So we will get to that and what that means for the Avalanche, if anything. We'll do that next. Right now, we got FanDuel, and FanDuel. You love FanDuel. You can score early this NFL season with America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any $5 money line bet, and that's $150 if your team wins. Kyle, would you put that $5 bet down on the Colorado Avalanche for this game against the New Jersey Devils?
You know what? I would put it on the Avalanche and the Broncos against the Bills. Double it up, baby.
Ooh, that, I believe they call that a parlay. me and my betting acumen is yes. That's what they. I don't know if you can do that far apart though. I think it's got to be in the same day, from what I understand.
Write them both. I have good feelings about both.
I am totally there with you, sir. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is super easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, those parlays, and so much more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and get this NFL season going. FanDuel is the official partner of the NFL. So like I said in the beginning, the Ducks and Golden Knights were going at it while we were recording yesterday's episode. We just finished the episode. Vegas was up 2-0. We figured, that's probably another win in their pocket. Not so fast. And the Ducks come back and win it. And that was kind of more meat on the bone for Avalanche fans who are like frustrated with how the team is playing, because they'll sit there and be like, oh, the Ducks can go beat Vegas, but you can't. And first, there's so much more to that than just the Ducks won against a very good team and the Avalanche couldn't. I get where that frustration comes from, but I think that's a little bit misguided, because the Ducks are playing excellent hockey right now. Excellent hockey. 6 wins in a row. And I don't think anybody really expected them to have a 6-game winning streak at any point during the season, right? You know who else had a 6-game winning streak was the Colorado Avalanche. Okay.
That's correct.
So my issue with the part of the fan base that is kind of looking at this and saying, like, see, this is why the Avalanche are not going to be good or are not good, is because do you really, like, as well as the Ducks are playing, do you really feel like how they're playing is sustainable throughout the course of the season? And this goes back to what I was saying yesterday and how things even out. And my answer to that is absolutely not. And we did the crossover with Jason in the offseason. Are the Ducks going to be improved? Yes. Are the Ducks going to be a playoff team? I'm not buying that at all. So while the Ducks are playing well right now, I don't feel like that is sustainable over the course of the season. Things even out. And while the Avalanche are not playing well right now, that's not sustainable either. And that will level itself out. Where am I wrong here?
Not necessarily wrong, but also I think it's this contrasting thing. Like, the Ducks beat the Knights. Understandable. They came back and won. It's also a very tired Knights team. They're not as fresh as
back to back. They were on a back to back. Exactly.
And you also have to now, when you're looking at the Ducks, one thing that separates them from the Colorado Avalanche, they're scoring goals. That must be nice. 3 of 4 losses are shutouts. Like, the San Jose Sharks were able to put 2 goals past the Pittsburgh Penguins, even though the Penguins had 10. San Jose were able to get 2 by them. Colorado was not able to do that. You remember when Colorado played the Sharks? We had to go to a shootout.
Struggled, yeah. Well, they struggled to score. They didn't struggle to generate chances.
And it's the Sharks right now are the joke team. Everybody points and laughs and, oh, look how terrible they're doing. Avalanche aren't scoring goals, but the Ducks are being the team that completely embarrassed you on Saturday night. That's understandable. I understand that hurt. But then the deeper this goes in the season, and we're going to be talking about the Devils game in just a minute, like, you feel like this Avalanche team has a chance, even though we just talked about being shut out, not looking great, getting wiped off the face of the earth by Vegas. When we're talking about this Devils matchup, you still feel good because this team still has the same components. It's getting those components to work together, and it feels like the Devils are just getting lucky because, I mean, not the Devils, the Ducks. The Ducks are getting lucky on this win streak because everybody looks at them like we have for probably the last decade and said, oh, it's the Ducks. We could kind of skate through this one, no pun intended, and get through the game. And you know what? After a back-to-back, I bet you Vegas was going into that third period saying, it's the Ducks. We got this. And then
maybe.
And then the Ducks just do what the Ducks do. And they won.
And the Ducks can score. The Ducks have a good young offensive ability, and they're going to be a problem for years to come. Is it this year? I don't think so. I think, like, they'll give you a game. They're not a pushover by any stretch of the imagination. But it, like, if you're bending over backwards to say, like, oh, the Ducks are a legitimate opponent and look at what they did to Vegas, if you're bending over backwards to say that, because they're overperforming right now. There's no to it that they are. And if you're going to go out of your way to defend that and say, like, hey, the Ducks are good, they're legitimate, just look at what they did against Vegas, and think that they can do that over the course of the season, and then you're like you can't then look at the Avalanche and say, well, they're underperforming and that's going to continue. If you really think the Avalanche are not a good team, and you've been saying that before the season even started, then okay, that's your argument. That's your take. But if your take is the Avalanche are can't overcome this just based on these last 3 out of 4 games, I don't buy that argument. I don't buy it. Like, you were not saying that at any point, but were you saying that at any point during the 6-game winning streak that started the season? I didn't really hear much of it. And now that the first inkling of adversity, it's this team is not built the right way. And if when we go over to the Ducks, it's you really feel like that's sustainable? Like that team can really continue to play that way? And if your answer to that is yes, that's your perspective on the thing. I think the majority of people don't feel that way. I think you can congratulate the Ducks and Greg Cronin on how they're playing right now, and that's what this is all about. Is right now. Avalanche are struggling to score right now. I don't feel like that is going to be a season-long problem. I do feel like, the Ducks will level out at some point, just like the Avalanche will level out. So I just find it's a funny argument how on one end you can look at a team that's not supposed to do much and defend their play right now, thinking that's going to continue into April, and look at a team that is supposed to do something and downgrade them and say, like, well, based on what I've seen the last 3 out of 4 games, I've lost complete faith in them.
It
Makes no sense to me.
It would be a lot easier to not go to such extremes if you saw this team have a little bit of cohesion. And that team, like the Ducks went
Yeah.
out there and won that game as a team and rallied together to win that. The Avalanche could not put a goal past that Vegas Golden Knights team, and it was a bunch of individual efforts. Those 3 of the 4 games we keep talking about, it was a game of individual efforts. And this team has to play as a team and rally together and push and go get a win. Those wins, those first 6 games, they went out there and had great individual nights that overwhelmed their opponent. They need a good win as a team.
I agree. I don't disagree with that, but I would also say, like, I totally believe that's coming. That will come around. This team's too good to have these types of games,
but
over a course of 72 more games. It's not going to happen.
We said that after one shutout, and then we said that after back-to-back shutouts, and then a win, and then another shutout and a super embarrassment. Sure. Eventually, saying you're going to keep saying this into the All-Star break, and that, like, you don't anticipate.
If this goes to the All-Star break, then that's a problem. But even if this goes for the month of November, then it's a problem.
Yeah, it's one of those, like, you got to call it like you see it. Like, you could call it what it's supposed to be all day long, but when you're looking at the evidence of what this team is currently, it stinks.
I think we just have a difference of opinion on maybe I'm just thinking bigger picture. I'm thinking bigger picture and thinking full season. And I think a lot of people are living in the immediate right here and now. And I think that's just the way fan bases and sports media are right now, is like, what have you done for me lately? What have you done for me today? And what it is for the Avalanche is, it's not good. I completely am on board with that. But come on, we've seen what this team has done over the past handful of seasons, and we got to give them every opportunity to right the ship. Can't do that after 10 games and just throw in the towel and say, like, oh, this is how this team is. I get it. I get that it's frustrating right now, but I don't. Everything they've done in the past, they deserve the benefit of the doubt to correct it, because they've shown that they can do it in the past. Just where I stand, sir. I get it. I get where people are frustrated, though. Let's talk about this game. Maybe this is where they start to right that ship. And that will be against the New Jersey Devils, Kyle's other team on the East Coast. All right, we'll get to that next. First, we got Sleeper and the Sleeper app. Kyle, is there a better app out there for daily fantasy sports than Sleeper?
No, I love the Sleeper app. I get on there and I just draft all the time. It's so easy to use. I get on there and just draft leagues for fun.
You can, yeah, which is, and who's your first pick all the time? Is it, I mean, I know you it's usually like you're in a different, slot, but it's always an Avalanche player, I'm assuming, or not all the time?
To be honest with you, yes, it's usually Nathan McKinnon straight out of the gate.
You got to. So a new season brings all sorts of possibilities. The Avalanche getting back on the board and Nathan McKinnon scoring 50? Sure, why not? And you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey at Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. And Sleeper's our number one choice for daily fantasy sports and especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. All you got to do is pick whether studs like Cale Makar or Nathan McKinnon will record more or less. Then there's Sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus minus, and more in any given game. Who are you going to take for this game here, Kyle, against the Devils? Who's your number one pick?
This is a Mikko game. Go Mikko.
I agree. I love it. So use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That code is LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. Avs and Devils tonight's in Ball Arena. So Avs trying to get back on track. Clearly, goals are a must. Just you've said it earlier, getting back to basics. I don't know if the Avalanche are built that way. I feel like basics won't do it for them, but maybe to start the game, just to get the blood going, whatever the case may be. But you have to think the Avalanche are not happy about their last outing. So they will come out in front of that home crowd who's going to be behind them. I anticipate this team not settling down at all and flying out of the gate. They have to set a tone here early.
And that's where this game could get really, really tricky for the Colorado Avalanche. This could be a key matchup going into this game. The New Jersey Devils have the number one power play in the league currently.
Like, what is it, like 40-something percent?
And the Avalanche have the 9th ranked penalty kill. So you can't put yourself in the box going off anger, trying to rectify an overplay. You can't have an entire team of Josh Manson trying to overplay and just go out there and just play angry. You have to play smart. Even though the Devils are without Jack Hughes, which is honestly a top 5 player in the league, that definitely helps Colorado. But you cannot put yourself in the box against this team, or you're going to be having more frustration going through this game, because this Devils team, they are stacked top to bottom. They have really good goalie play, but Vanacek, he's good. He gets them the wins they need and keeps them in the game.
Yeah, you said Hughes is out. Isn't Nico Hischier out too?
I think it's just Jack.
Really?
I think Hischier might be back.
Okay. The interesting thing with the Devil, good team. Not trying to take anything away from them as a team right now. Playoff team, 100%. East is a beast, and whether or not they get to the Stanley Cup final remains to be seen. They're a pick from a lot of people, but so far this year, 7-3-1, great record. Look at their opponents and look at their losses. They haven't really played that difficult of a schedule so far. Their losses, and there's 4 total, 3 regulation, 1 overtime loss, are to the Arizona Coyotes, the Florida Panthers, who are not playing well, the Washington Capitals, who are not expected to be much of anything this year, and the St. Louis Blues. Those are their 4 losses. And you could argue those are games that they should be winning. Right? But again, this goes back to early in the season.
Yeah.
And how often are we talking about that right now with the Colorado Avalanche? So I don't want to sit here and kind of berate them and say like, oh, they're losing to Arizona. They're losing to St. Louis. This is what happens early in the season, right? And even their wins are against Red Wings, who are better. Islanders, okay, middle of the road. Canadians, they beat them 5-2. Buffalo, they beat them 5-4. They won a back-to-back against Minnesota Wild, and then they just beat the Blackhawks. They have not played a collection of games and a collection of teams who are upper echelon of the league yet, but they're winning some of the ones that they have won, and the losses. If they were in January, February, I think I'd be taking them a lot harder than they are early in the season. But again, I'm sure that fan base is not happy about some of those losses.
Yeah, and honestly, and you rattle off those losses, but the last 5, the Devils have dropped 1 game in their last 5. They're 4-1 in their last 5. the Avalanche have been shut out by the Penguins and the Sabres and the Knights. They dropped 3 of their last 5.
Yeah.
So the Avalanche are getting those ugly boo-boos on their schedule now, to where the Devils are overcoming them and beating Minnesota on a back-to-back. And they're putting things together. And again, this is without Jack Hughes, who is like listed as week to week. This is the equivalent of navigating a schedule like that without Nathan McKinnon on the team.
Yeah.
So they're finding that cohesion and how to win games as a team. The Devils are there. That's where the Avalanche need to figure it out tonight and put it together and win this game and stop that momentum that New Jersey is building. This is a great stepping stone for the Avalanche to put it together, say, hey, we beat the Devils, and then you look forward to the next game and build on that confidence.
I think Nico Hischier is out.
Is he still?
I'm looking it up right now. I do not believe he's going to be playing in this game. Unless something changes, what I'm seeing is he will not be playing. So, I mean, just being down Hughes is big. If you're down both of those guys, I mean,
Hischier's the captain, so
right.
It's a Landeskog and McKinnon equivalent injury.
Over on Subtext, let's get to some predictions over there. Vargar says 2-1 Avs, so he doesn't really feel he's going to be high scoring. After being outscored, he says 19-1, which is not accurate. I think it's they scored the 4 against the Blues, so I think it's 19-4. Maybe just hit the wrong key. In their last 4 games, he'll take what he can get. Real goals are not expected. I think that's where a lot of fans are right now. You got to show me that you can score legit goals. Devils should be off their game without Hughes, so it should be winnable. They'll need to establish a net front presence and make life difficult for opposing goalies, not make them look like all-stars. Yeah, he's big on that, and I agree with him. Like Avs are known to do that, make opposing goalies, no matter how new, fresh they might be in the league, they tend to make them look like all-stars.
Yeah, Vanacek is an emotional goalie.
Yeah, definitely. Madam Battleaxe says 3-2 Avs in overtime. And this is a running theme for our subtext people. 3-2 in overtime. I do believe that we will win, but we'll need to pull it together. It will be sloppy and messy, but we will squeak by. Goals made by, her predictions are Mikko, Kale, and Colton. Yeah, Mikko, Kale, and Colton will have the overtime winner.
Oh, she talk about hero.
Yeah, she thinks that they should sit Georgiev, not replace him, but sit him a game and see what's happening.
You know what?
You're down for that? I don't know.
What is Georgiev? He hasn't won us any game lately. Like,
yeah, but he's your horse. You got to get him on the right track.
Well, that horse has a broken leg, and we know what happens to those kind of horses.
Yeah. This is from James. It says 4-5 win for the Avalanche in overtime. Goals by Cale Makar, Mikko, Johansson, and Colton. A lot of people liking Colton for this game. And in the overtime winner by Val Nichushkin. And boy, would he need that.
Oh, man.
He's good in overtime. When he's 3-on-3, he's got open ice. That big body, it's tough to move him. He just kind of just protects the puck, and he'll find a way in and score it. So he's really good in overtime. So I like that. Said they lose in shots on goal and faceoffs, but have longer time in the attack. And he feels like the hits will be even as well. What do you think?
I do. It does have a very overtime, and I have a different overtime winner in mind.
Mm-hmm. Well, I got one more for you.
Yep.
This is from Easton. 3-2, Avs win in overtime. Georgie with 30 saves, goals from McKinnon, Ryan Johansson, and Sammy G. Thinks they will tighten up on D, make smarter passes to one another. So that's from our subtext crew. What are you thinking?
Does everybody remember whose revenge game this is? This is a Miles Wood revenge game.
Oh, yeah. Jeez. Yeah, good point. You think he's... So, I love doing that. I love picking players that go up against their own teams.
Miles Wood's already gone to dinner with the Devils. Mm-hmm. He's already hanging out with the Devils. And this is his way of saying, hey, I'm with Colorado now. And he's going to put the game away in overtime.
Should have gave me 6 years. Okay.
Yeah.
What's your score? What do you think for a score?
I'm thinking this has a 5-4 feel.
I'm right with you. I do. I think the Avs can get back on track and score, but even without Jack Hughes, Devils are a pretty good scoring team. So I'm like, and you know what? We'll go overtime too. We'll keep that theme going. 5-4 overtime, Avs.
Yep, and the Avs will score, like come out the gate scoring, and they're going to have to hold it into overtime, and Miles Wood will send everybody home.
You want to get that goal early. You had those back-to-back shutouts where you were shut out, and then when you came back home, you had that Ross Colton goal relatively early in the first period, and it didn't prolong and it didn't go on. Get it out of the way, get the crowd involved, and then just keep building from that. So we'll see how it goes. We'll be back tomorrow to talk about it. Hopefully it's going to be an Avalanche win. However it goes, tune in tomorrow. But thank you for making this episode your first listen of the day. Always appreciated. Check back in tomorrow and definitely subscribe to our subtext so you can get in on how you're feeling and have those thoughts read on the air. For Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan, I am Chris Maselli, and this is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. Enjoy the game, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.